Okay, so I should get us rolling, huh? Good evening, everyone. I would call this special city council meeting regarding the truth in taxation public hearing to order. Before we open the hearing, I think there's a couple presentations we're going to make to the community and the people watching this in regards to just some basic tax matters. I think city manager will just want to walk through some variations showing you how the tax is arrived at and what factors may influence. And then we'll speak with our financial manager, Chris Regis, and he'll give us kind of an outline of the tax and how we arrived at the levy this year. City manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm going to try doing something here just to go through something kind of quickly. If the control room, if they can focus down on this piece of paper that I have here so I can kind of see what I'm dealing with. Let's see, I want to make sure I've got it in the right place. Pull it down here. Okay, before we get started, what I really want to do is the terminology that we use, that we have to deal with property taxes, it gets kind of complicated. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to boil it down to something very, very simple and basic that folks can, who watch this later or who are watching it live tonight, can kind of use to get a sense of what we can control when it comes to property taxes and how the property tax is actually calculated. And I'm going to just do a couple of quick scenarios, but let's start with the scenario that you have a property that's worth market value of $185,000. That's established by the county assessor. It's not established by us. It, again, is a county assessor function to determine what the value of your home is. In Minnesota statutes, there's a way that the value of a home is converted to what's called a tax capacity. And in Minnesota, for homes that are worth up to about $500,000, it's very simple. It's 1%. So this home has a tax capacity of $1,850. That's the tax capacity of this house. Now, how do you arrive at a property tax? Well, for the city portion of the property tax, again, every taxing jurisdiction has what's called a tax capacity rate. And as we strike a tax levy, and the county does and the school does, that's boiled down to a percentage that's called a tax capacity rate. So let's assume, and it's going to be very close, that last year the city's tax capacity rate was 0.568. So just a simple way to determine what the city tax was for the past year was you would have taken the tax capacity rate, the tax capacity times the tax capacity rate, and we've got a city tax of $1,051. And that would have been the city portion of the property tax. So what happens in the ensuing year if that $185,000 home had no value change? And so it still had a tax capacity of $1,850, but the city raised its levy, and that's the case here that we're looking at for payable 2018. And let's say, and this is not the figure, but I'm just using this to cite an example. So let's say that tax capacity rate went to 0.59 for payable 18. The tax would be $1,092. That would be the city portion of the property tax. That's an increase of about 3.9%. But what really happens, and again, it's something that I believe most people are seeing on their value of their homes, is the home values in Richfield are going up. And in fact, they're going up quite a bit. Richfield really had kind of a high point in residential home values in about 2007, and it took a decline. The whole metropolitan area did, but Richfield took a pretty steep decline at that time, and it's been a period of time of those home values building their values back up again. And we're about at the point where we're getting back to the sort of the high point. So let's assume that the assessor looked at this house and decided that the value based on property sales of similar homes, now the value is estimated at $200,000. The state statute says now the tax capacity of that home is $2,000. And again, for example's sake, let's say that the city didn't increase its tax capacity rate at all, that it had the same rate as the previous year. So again, it was multiplied times 5, 6, 8. And now the tax for the city share is $1,136, or an 8% increase. But keep in mind, in an example like this, what the city can control is the multiplier, that tax capacity rate. It does not control what the value of the property is, as seen by the county assessor, or the state statute formula that converts that into a tax capacity. And in this case, even if the city would have had no increase in its tax capacity rate, this home would have seen an increase of about 8% in its property taxes. But the reality of what we see for most homes is more of the example I'm going to show you now. Let's say that this $185,000 home did increase to $200,000 in value. And so we have now a $2,000 tax capacity for that home. And let's say the city did increase its tax capacity rate to 0.59 as opposed to the previous year. The tax on this property now, the city portion, would be $1,180. And that, my friends, is an increase of 12.3%. And that's a factor of two things. It's a factor of the values in our community going up, and the fact that our tax capacity rate, proposed rate, is going up. And again, you'll see in a minute why we're looking at that going up with all of the infrastructure that we're having to reinvest in our community. But the last example I want is have folks think about what happens in the bigger picture, because it's not just the city that's on property taxes. Let's take that example that I just showed. And again, we started off with a $185,000 home, and it had $1,850 of tax capacity, and the combined tax capacity rate of the city, of the county, of the school, of the miscellaneous taxing jurisdictions, let's say for last year altogether, was 1.42. And you multiply it out, and then the total property tax that home saw would have been something in the range of $2,627. Now let's put all those changes in play for the whole tax picture on that home. Again, the value, let's say, went up to $200,000. The tax capacity then went to $2,000. But let's say the combined rate of all the taxing jurisdictions went up to something like 1.485. Now you multiply it out, and the tax on that home goes up to $2,970, or a 13% increase in their property taxes. Fact is that I believe a lot of folks in Richfield are seeing examples something like this, where you're seeing an increase in the value and there are increases in the tax capacity rate. And once again, one of the things that you, the City Council, will consider when you vote on a final tax levy on December the 12th is if you want to make an adjustment on the only thing you can really make an adjustment on, and that is the tax capacity rate for the city. That can be it can be lowered. It can't be raised, of course, but if you feel a need, or there's a reason why you'd want to lower that, you can do that on December 12th. I hope I didn't take too long, but I wanted to bring it out there just to show the very elemental things that are in play when we start talking about property taxes and what happens to our taxes on our homes.
I think just one point for clarification, because we normally speak of levy, which is the same thing as the tax capacity rate. Basically, correct? Because when you
Basically-
talk about it being set, we can set a ceiling
Yes.
on the levy, we can reduce it, we can buy it down. But normally, when we're talking about those, we're talking about the levy, which is the responsibility of the city staff and the people at the dais here, correct?
That's exactly right, and that, you brought up a good point, because we use different terms. The actual term that we talk about, when we talk about certifying a property tax to the county, and then ultimately to the state, it's called our property tax levy. But when we make that levy, the result of a calculation then that comes out is what's called the city tax capacity rate. And the levy results in a tax capacity rate. And so if you were to lower the tax levy, you would certainly lower the tax capacity rate, that multiplier figure, for the city portion only.
And I still, it's interesting because there's been some talk about, well, 6 months ago, everybody was lauding the fact that we were the hottest municipality in the metro area in terms of home sale. And with values going up, as evidenced by your graphics, the taxes are going to go up, and that's
Yes.
and it's just because and those are set by statute, not by us, and that's what we work with. So, you pay for increased value in your house, and it's just something that we have to reconcile ourselves with, because you got more value, and consequently, it's going to cost a little bit more for the services we provide.
Right. And, for most people, I would say that, your home is certainly one of the very biggest investments you'll have in your life. And, while you probably kind of cringe when your market value goes up, because it's going to probably result in paying more property taxes, on the other hand, that value of your asset just went up. And I would say that most people who would be looking to sell a home in Richfield, if it's priced anywhere near the market, it's gone pretty instantaneously. So
Well, you got to remember that loan to value increases too, and that's what you want. So,
thank you.
thank you, Mr. Regis. Educate us.
Present here, I think you've all seen before and things like that, but there are a few changes on here. We've been working with some of the numbers to try to adjust the levy, and we've learned a few things too since the last time we spoke. Just a timetable, key events. We're here tonight, December 5th, Truth and Taxation hearing, and as Steve said, next Tuesday, we'll be presenting to the county the final budget and levy for your consideration. Some of the key issues here in 2018, property taxes still remain our primary funding source, and also now market value increases, as Steve talked about, for residential property. They're pretty significant increases for 2018, and they're going to go up again for pay 19, according to the Hennepin County Assessor. Also included in our base levy is the Economic Development Authority levy of $560,000. That is something I wasn't aware. I thought it was a separate levy, a special levy, and it is not. It is included in the general levy, and that's something that's affected the levy this year also. Then we also have the debt service levy for 2017A. That's $622,000. That goes towards the funding of 66th Street. We've increased the amount of LGA that we were budgeting for. We've gone from $550,000 to $1.15 million of LGA.
Chris, can I just stop for a second? That hasn't been done. We're going to make a suggestion to the city council that you take a look at increasing it from the amount that we had. What did we say, 800 or so?
815,000, 15, I think, yeah.
That you consider at least increasing that to 1,150,000, and that would, of course, buy down the property tax levy and ultimately buy down the tax capacity rate. But that's something for you to consider on the 12th and not today.
Health insurance has increased 9%. Public safety dispatch has increased up to $250,000. And there's police and fire personnel cost increases just to younger officers, younger firefighters working their way through the steps. $785,000 levy for our rolling stocking equipment. That's a $15,000 increase over the prior year. And then all the general fund departments came in at 3% or less increases, which is really, really good. Just a history of state aid. You can see down there in 2018, we're going to realize a $134,000 increase in state aid from 2017. Just a little revenue comparison here. 2001 taxes were 38%. Intergovernmental revenues were 39% of general fund revenues. However, that meant a big shift Since that time, in 2018, they're now 68% for taxes and 10% for intergovernmental revenue. And also, everything I've gone through here, I have incorporated the proposed 1.15 million in there. So all the numbers here have that factored in, just for your reference. Local government aid, 2017, it's 2.45% of general fund revenues. In 2018, it's now approximately 5%. If you look way back in 2001, LGA accounted for 24% of general fund revenue. This brings us to our gross levy, which is at $20,621,911. That's an increase of 6.11% over the 2017 levy. The components then here are a general fund levy of $15.9 million, the EDA levy for $560,000, the equipment levy for $785,000, which brings us to our base levy of $17.3 million. Our debt service levy is $2.9 million, and that includes that 2017 A bond issue, and then our tax abatement levy is $370,000. That gives us our $20.6 million. Our gross tax levy history, you can see 2018 we're at 6.11, 2017 3.26, and so on. The general.
And let me just jump back to that slide, if you would. If it weren't for the fact that the EDA levy is rolled into the city levy, that levy increase, Chris, would have been, what, 3-ish?
Yeah, 3.5 maybe.
Yeah.
A little under 4.
Yeah.
Our 2008 general fund budget is at $23,350,010. That's a 2.71% increase from 2017 adopted and a 4% increase from the 2017 revised. If you compare revenues from 2017 to 2018, you see a slight decrease in taxes, and that is offset by a slight increase in intergovernmental revenue, and that's related to the increase in LGA. Everything else is basically the same, no changes. If you go back 10 years, you can see there's some increases in taxes, decreases in intergovernmental revenues, and a little bit of an increase in charges for services if you compare it from 10 years ago. Look at general fund expenditures from 2017 to 2018. There's no change, and this is the departments are pretty static in their percentage portion of the general fund. If you look at our 3 largest departments, public safety, public works, and fire, they equal 75% of the general fund budget. If you look at our total general fund tax levy, it's only $15.8 million. Those 3 departments equate to $17.4 million. Pretty telling statistic. If you look at a 10-year expenditure profile, you can see 2008, 2018 there. Public safety and fire are basically the same. There's a slight decrease in public works expenditures in the 10-year period. A little bit of an increase in community development. If we look at kind of reiterate what Steve just went through, if we look at a $200,000 property in 2017 or 2018 now, if there's no market value increase between the 2 years, you're looking at approximately a $11 increase in taxes. If you factor in a 6.6% estimated market value increase, which is what the Hennepin County assessor let me know that was the average increase for houses in Richfield, although in the sample that I had, most of them increased much more than that. I don't know where, the 6.6% seems low to me based on the sample of notices I received and stuff. But if you factor in the 6.6%, you're looking at about an $86 increase over the previous year. And if you go to a $225,000 property, no market value change or anything, you're looking at about a $12 increase, and with the 6.6%, you're looking at approximately $97 increase. So, but again, I think that 6.6 may be a little low. If we move into our capital improvement budget, it's at $13,060,000. Some of the major projects: the continuation of 66th Street, 77th Street underpass, Midland overlay, the Penn liquor store remodel, and there's some recreation projects also included in that number. If we look at our rolling stock, our equipment purchases for 2018, total cost of the equipment budget, it right now exceeds $1 million. Our general tax levy is only $785,000 to help cover those costs. So to fill in that gap, we've got some cash flow transfers in from a capital project fund to help cover that. But some of the purchases are a front-end loader, a backhoe loader, fire pumper chassis, 3 interceptor squads, and some computer network infrastructure and equipment. As you're well aware, this summer and early fall, we went through a utility rate study. So some of the rates now that we're looking at, for water anyway, in Tier 1, we're gonna drop 4 cents per gallon from 3.59 to 3.55. In Tier 2, we're gonna go up to $4.27 per 1,000 gallons, and in Tier 3, we're gonna go up to $5.13 per 1,000 gallons. And also the water service charge, I think, is gonna increase from $5 to $10, I think. I think that's the first time that's happened since I've been here. I don't know when the last time that ever changed. Wastewater utility, proposed rate is gonna go up about 47 cents from $4.65 to $5.12 per 1,000 gallons. The biggest cost in the wastewater utility fund is the Met Council sewer charges. And typically those go up every year, 3 to 5 to 10%. And in 2018, it looks like we're gonna get about a $30,000 decrease, which again, that's something I've never seen before either. The stormwater utility fund, the proposed rate is gonna go up about $1.47. That's $17.78 a quarter over the 2017 rate. The rationale for some of these increases is the outstanding debt within the utility funds. We have to service that debt through the utility funds. There's capital infrastructure needs and requirements, level of needed working capital, annual operating expenses, and the MCF sewer charges. This brings us kind of to the end. Is where are we going? There's a lot of significant right-of-way projects in the next 3 to 5 years, which a lot of them are going to require debt service, issuance of debt. And what that does, a lot of that debt is serviced by tax levies. And that puts pressure on our overall tax levy doing that. And you combine that with market value increases on single-family homes, which are increasing and will continue to increase at least through Pay 19. Creates a lot of pressure on the residents in the city and a lot of pressure on the tax levy. So some of the things that we need to look at are, we have a policy of LGA independence, trying to wean ourselves from depending on that, but there's a lot of pressure to maintain that. And, like we did this year, we're proposing to increase the budget amount, which, is probably the thing to do. We have to continue our long-term financial planning, maintain our current level of quality service, which I think all the departments have done this year by coming in at 3% or less, and, contain our operating costs. And I think that is all. Any questions? Or?
That pretty much concludes any comments or presentation we have on the staff level. Obviously, the TNT hearing is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to make a comment regarding the tax levy, not the property values, the tax levy. And of course, there's no action that can be taken tonight. That's action that must be taken at another meeting, a subsequent meeting, and that will be December 12th. So I turn it back over to you, Mayor and Council.
Any comments?
I just thank staff. I thank City Manager Devich for the presentation. I hope folks can watch that on TV. I think that will be helpful for folks to just kind of understand at the granular level, what these decisions we make, how they impact, and the impacts that really aren't decision-based at all, that are out of our control, that factor here. And then for the presentation that charts out why we're here, and look forward to our next meeting, investigating that further with the use of our levy and trying to find the best place to be with our budget, respecting our taxpayers and where we're headed in the future.
I just wanted to say, I think you, as leader in the city here, you really do a good job, but I think you've got responsible people that are committed to, and I'm impressed with the loyalty they have to this community and the investment that they care enough about it, to help us maintain I think the superb level of services that we have, and you just do an outstanding job in making sure that it's understandable, that it's transparent, and that it's, it's a product that I think you can be really, proud of. And I'm proud of you guys. You do a good job, all of you.
Yeah, I was only going to add to that. I really appreciated in the budget process just how disciplined and circumspect all the directors were, coming in with doing their own homework on the front end, and really appreciate your partnership in that regards. And then I just for Mr. Regis, I just wanted to mention, just because you didn't, but I think it's true. One of our big costs and expenses are the infrastructure projects that are coming online now because we were built a half a century ago. And as we invest in those, we have some heavy lifting to do, but we're not lifting alone. And I would just be really curious to know, of our revenue that's going for those infrastructure projects, how much are we getting in terms of dollars from the county and the state? And sometimes it's quite significant. So as we look at those investments, I think it'd be a useful number for me to just know, as we invest those dollars, we're also being partnered with other government entities. That'd be helpful. But great presentation. Thank you very much.
I would just suggest you may be somewhat dismayed at the lack of contributions from other sources, but that's just me.
I have no doubt I will be, but I think it's helpful for us to know.
But, if and when we do get contributions, we will certainly acknowledge them. I think I'll echo everything everybody said is ever since I was on the city council and up to the position I currently hold, I always felt that anytime there was a decision, a tough decision or a balanced decision that had to be made, we're always reminded that's for the policy people, that's for the elected officials. And there is 100% truth to that. And sometimes when it was really a difficult one, you just stand back and you say, sure, make us make all the hard decisions. But the reality is the information we're provided makes the decisions in a lot of cases easier. And the expertise and the analysis that we're provided with and the options of what if this, what if that, the decisions are still tough. That's what we got elected to do. But the information we're provided gives us a lot of confidence in where we end up in the decisions that we do make. And I think, I look at Chris's presentations and everything, and it always amazes you the difference between what our three largest departments cost and what our general revenue. And you look at that and you say, how does it work? And it does, and it works because the diligence in budgeting and making sure we know where we're going, having advanced planning, capital improvements that we do over 5 years so that we're anticipatory of what we have to do and how we propose to do it. And all those decisions we make is based on information provided to us. So once again, I think I told Andy Wigg when he asked me about running for mayor and everything, and I said I seem to be not only in the right place at the right time, but in the position to receive the best information available to make decisions. So we get credit for the decision making, but every time a decision is made, I have to do credit to the people that provide us the information that makes that decision much easier, and that's everybody that's sitting out here and everybody that works for the city. So I applaud your efforts every day, and I really appreciate the service and the information you provide us to make our jobs easier. So thank you. This is a public hearing. Anybody care to comment? Seeing no one here, I would move to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There being no further business, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.